afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you all for joining me today for the 11th of our Colombia CBIPS lecture series on the AEC experience relating to COVID-19. I'm Fenioski Peñamora, Executive Director of Colombia's Center for Buildings, Infrastructure, and Public Space, and Edwin Howard Armstrong, Professor of Civil Engineering and Engineering Mechanics at Colombia's Food Foundation School of Engineering and Applied Science. As the events of the last months have demonstrated, we are living during exceedingly challenging times, characterized by divides, distrust, and distancing. However far apart we have been, however far apart we currently are, we need to learn to come together, to be together, to act together for social, economic, and environmental justice. I hope that the events of these days bring better understanding of the injustice that exists and become a catalyst to bring about real change for all. Along with many of our colleagues in New York City and around the world, the faculty and staff of the Center for Buildings, Infrastructure, and Public Space would like to add our voices to those decrying institutional racism in the AEC industry. Today, our industry has a challenging work ahead to achieve true racial and gender inclusion. We need to stand with our Black architects, Black engineers, Black contractors, Black suppliers, and Black community. We need to listen better, to learn better, and to incorporate the lessons of diversity and distress into the way we, all working together, reshape economically challenged communities. We need to build a better future for our industry, characterized by respect, opportunity, and collaboration. Acknowledging these aspirations and commitments, our lecture program will continue every Tuesday at noon into September with 19 talks from leaders in both the public and private sectors. The lectures bring together people to address the impact, response, recovery, and preparedness of the architecture, engineering, and construction community in regard to the coronavirus pandemic. These talks also relate to issues of social, economic, and environmental justice to the new normal post-COVID-19 AEC world. Our first speakers were from New York, London, Los Angeles, Paris, Boston, and Washington, D.C. They all addressed the experiences of their offices in relating to COVID-19 impact, response, recovery, and preparedness. We have heard about public buildings, civic infrastructure, COVID-19 medical facilities, and changes in our offices' operations. Subsequent talks will focus on the civic infrastructure in the city of Sao Paulo, on transportation systems in Chicago, on COVID-19 emergency hospital construction in China, and on design and construction in Seoul. Please check our site to see more information about our next speakers and co-moderators. I would like to thank also the organizations with whom we are collaborating in presenting these lectures. They are the American Council of Engineering Companies, New York, thanks, Jay Simpson. The American Institute of Architects, New York chapter, thanks. Benjamin Prosky. The American Society of Civil Engineers, thanks, Lance Brown. The Construction Management Association of America, New York and New Jersey, thanks, Vinny Farkowski. Engineering News Record, thanks, Jan Tuckman. And the National Academy of Construction, thanks, Wayne Crew. Today, we turn to the experiences and lessons learned at McDonald, a global engineering, management, and development consulting firm with 16,000 people delivering projects around the world. My co-moderator today is Patrick Natal, the Executive Director of the United Engineering Foundation and former Executive Director of the American Society of Civil Engineers. The United Engineering Foundation advances the engineering arts and sciences for the welfare of humanity, supporting engineering education and making grants to not-for-profit organizations to further the engineering professions. Pat is also a Senior Vice President at McDonald. Thank you for being here, Pat. Our speaker today is Nicholas DeNichilo, President and Chief Executive Officer of McDonald North America, a full-service infrastructure, transportation, and environmental engineering firm with a staff of 2,500 and 66 offices throughout the US and Canada. He is the current chair of the Industry Leaders Council of the American Society of Civil Engineers and serves on the Board of Trustees of the New Jersey Institute of Technology. He received his Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering in 1973 and his Master of Science in Civil Engineering in 1978 from NJIT. Nick is a licensed professional engineer in 7 states and the District of Columbia, and a member of numerous engineering societies. To learn more about both Nick and Pat, please visit the CBIPS website. Thank you, Nick, for being here with us today. We look forward to hearing your talk.
Thank you. Okay, so can you hear me? All right. So thank you very much, Feniaski, for allowing me and Mott McDonald to share what we've done, what we are currently doing, and what we are likely to be doing over the upcoming months as we continue to face this challenge of COVID-19. Next slide, please. It's a policy of Mott McDonald, whether it's an internal meeting or an external meeting, that we can't have a meeting unless we focus for at least a moment on safety. So to me, this whole issue that we're confronted with COVID-19, and from the very onset, it's been the health and the well-being of our staff, our partners, and our clients. That was our #1 priority. And I'll share with you later on what we're doing as far as a third-party app where we have our staff go through a self-attestation before they can return to an office, and for that matter, even to a construction site. Thank you. Next slide. So how are we getting through it? Next slide, please. Well, this is really, fortunately for us and for many of my colleagues in the other engineering companies out there, we really started to work more smartly years ago. And we've adopted, cloud technology quite a bit. And whether it's, Microsoft 365 or Azure, SharePoint, Skype, Teams, Zoom, it prepared us to deal with this very issue that we're confronted with right now. We started this transition quite seamlessly back in mid-March. And as I said previously, the well-being, cybersecurity, our connectivity, and also ongoing updates of our standards and guidance has continually helped us through these past few months. Next slide. On sticking with technology for a second, using a variety of third-party software, in this case, Bluebeam Studio, we're able to now, quite frankly, more effectively, and I've got some clear evidence of this, more effectively manage the design process from the basis of design right through final design in a very collaborative way. Typically, in a design office, if you got a project, you have a design team, they're meeting occasionally on the project. But now, as a result of remote working, one of the quite frankly collateral benefits is the fact that we can bring in so many more people in a collaborative way to review a design. This happens to be a part of a water treatment plant. And not only with the design manager and the design team, but because we're a global business, we can bring in additional special experts throughout the organization to look at the design. Not only that, we have now the opportunity to collaboratively work with our clients and our partners, regardless of what software is used to actually conduct these designs. In fact, we're doing projects today in a collaborative way on airports in Singapore and on wastewater treatment plants in Abu Dhabi. We found a way to more collaboratively deal with the design and do it in what's been a rather efficient manner. Thank you. Next slide. So working remotely, it has some benefits, some long-term benefits. And it also has, quite frankly, some challenges as well. But for a moment, if we look at some of the benefits, so many of our staff like the fact that they're working remotely. They find it to be quite positive. Flexibility is much easier. Instead of traveling to the office, some people might take them an hour and a half, some people 15 minutes. We find that there's far more time being focused on the projects, quite frankly, in working remotely. And as I said previously, we're using quite an array of software that helps us making our meetings far more inclusive. And from training standpoint, we haven't really lost much there as well. That we can train globally and locally effectively through Learning Point's one of our programs where, a staff can just go to the site and pick up some information. It's good. Clearly, it's saving us a lot of money working remotely, and it is having a positive impact to our, low carbon footprint. So to me, I think that, this is some of the benefits. However, going to the next slide, I am concerned about some of the long-term challenges. Next slide, please. We are constantly talking to our staff on how it's going. And quite frankly, back in April, we had a survey and people were quite upbeat. They're happy working at home. But that seems to be changing now. Many people are kind of anxious to come back to the office. They miss that community, that sense of meeting with staff, that social interaction that also supports team building. So to me, this is something that we as a business continue to monitor through surveys, through conversations, and dealing with that. And even from a well-being point of view, we have some staff that just can't seem to manage effectively working remotely from home. It might be something to do with their home environment or whatever the case may be. But because our leadership has been quite engaged and empathetic, I think that over the prior months, we've been able to manage this quite effectively. And the other reason why I think it's worked so well for Mott MacDonald, and I'm sure for so many of our partners in this space, and also for many of the asset owners that might be on this call, it's worked very well for us because we know each other. It's taken many years to develop that trust where we can effectively work face to face. And I think that's good. As the years unfold, however, and months unfold, as we start to return to the office, and in some cases, it might take a year to return to some offices. And then we continue to bring in new people, but it's kind of difficult to say, oh, welcome to Mott MacDonald. We will mail you your laptop and monitor and welcome on board. I think that gets to be problematic, especially with young engineers. I think our young engineers, we're anxious to get them back into the office where I think they're going to get far more nurturing and training. The other concern over the long term is issues of cybersecurity and also remote connectivity. In some cases, your service will go down or whatever the case may be. And when that happens, you lose some connection there. And we also are very concerned about cybersecurity. Pre-COVID in Mott MacDonald globally, our ratio was around 85% to the workspace ratio. Right now it's basically 10% because 90% of our people are still working remotely. I would think, that as we come out of this issue and start to return back to the offices, I gotta believe that it's not gonna be 85% anymore. Maybe it'll be down to 60%, 50%, I don't know. But clearly a hybrid approach will be the way that I see things happening. And we're on a journey together and we'll see where it goes. Next slide. Working remotely, this is just a snapshot of some of our staff. You see a lot of smiling faces over there. I think it's working reasonably well for us. I have not seen any real reduction in productivity. And I can share with all of you, I'm not saying this in a boastful way, but we closed the books on the first half of the year. And quite frankly, through the first 6 months of this year, our revenues and our profits are still better than last year, which was actually was a record year for us. So far, so good. But the key here is communication. No matter how you look at it, you need to be engaged on each and every day. And talking about communication, many of our communication, we use Zoom. This call's on Zoom, but we use Microsoft Teams quite a bit. And as I said before, you know, this is not a plug to MS Teams, but just the fact that in our case, it works really well. And our staff, you know, are better aware, quite frankly, of what we're doing, because since we started this, I, as the CEO of McDonald, you know, North America, I have a town hall every 2 weeks. And I will tell you that prior to this, I did not have a town hall every 2 weeks. I might have had one once every quarter or so. But the fact that we're far more engaged and we're connecting with each other really yields great results to us. So to me, and to all of you on the call, the fact that we can work remotely, I think it's great. I think you're going the wrong way, Pat, with the slides. If you can just stay there for a second. I think it's the quality of the communications as well. It's working well. Now, this particular slide is something that I had seen from a report from McKinsey back a few months ago, and it was all about agile best practices on how to do, you know, distributed work from home type teams. And you know, without going through everything on this particular slide, I got to tell you that each and every day from mid-March, certainly through the first few months, the team leaders had to connect with their members every day. And there was this vertical communication up and down that had to happen each and every day between the team members. And this was done through technology, certainly, and also by phone calls. And this was done, and it was done also laterally. It was very important that in North America in particular, about 2,500 staff, that everybody remains engaged and we know what they're doing. And we also monitor our software usage daily, whether it's, you know, Autodesk or Bentley or whatever the case may be, and a lot of third-party software that we need to use in order to undertake our work. And we look at it, and if there's a dip in it, we're able to at least respond quickly and find out why. Is it because people are less engaged, or is it that they're doing something else that is benefiting the project and at the end of the day, our clients? So we do that. We do monitor each and every day, and our collaboration is both of a technical perspective as well as a personal perspective. Next slide. And next slide is just building on exactly what I just said. And as leaders, we need to set the direction. And you have to have clear direction, and you need to really be focused on this. And this means really almost daily check-ins. When we started this, we had the executive team met every day, every evening, in fact, starting at around 5 o'clock in the evening on the East Coast, which I guess was 3 o'clock on the West Coast. A day didn't go by over the few years, over the few months, prior months, that we didn't meet daily. And that was absolutely very beneficial to us. The teams met daily. It kept our teams energized. The staff realized first and foremost that their health, their well-being is of importance to us. We actually were able to delegate more and empower others to assume roles. So in many ways, it kind of served as cutting the umbilical cord, if you will, and allowing a lot of our young people to stretch and really take on more focused approach to the business. And that's what worked well for us. So going to the next slide. Was it easy? No. Is it easy now? No. It's still difficult. So, you know, from McDonald's perspective, we're a private company. We're not a publicly listed company. We're 16,000 people. Our revenue's around $2 billion. And we didn't know how long this was going to last. Who knows? And even to this day, we can't honestly say that we're out of the challenge, because you could see what's happening in parts of the country and indeed, you know, parts of the world, whether there's a resurgence of this. And will there be a looming global recession thereafter? So to me, we had to preserve cash. That was key. We did reduce some unnecessary overhead. Fortunately, we did not have to cut much staff, and that was really a very positive. We were focused to keep our utilization high, which we did. But you know, clearly we did reduce hours from the very top of the organization. Took a bigger hit, certainly, than our younger scientists and engineers. And we did that for about 2.5 months, from mid-March until, you know, the end of June. We restored everyone to, you know, their full-time salaries. We keep a careful eye on the business. A month doesn't go by that we don't forecast what's happening over the next quarter, the next 2 quarters. Typically, we would forecast twice a year based on our budget, but now we actually forecast each month to see how are things going, and we look really careful about the pipeline of our authorized work. So, and we're staying very aggressive with technology. It's very important to us. And even though we're still in the so-called lockdown, we are really at this point, not only, I'm very fortunate to say and thankful to say that we retain our staff quite well, but we are recruiting. We are recruiting right now in a very big way, and certain sectors more so than others, but that is an ongoing issue, and we are taking aggressive action. Next slide, Pat. Okay, now we talk about client engagement. I'm sure there's probably some clients on the call, and you know, we are very close to our clients. Our account leaders are continually reaching out to clients, probably more so than ever before, because it's much easier to do so. Clients want to know what's happening on their projects. We need to understand whether we're meeting their needs. So, you know, typically, yeah, you would get on a phone call or you would hop on a plane and you go down to New Orleans and you meet with the director of public works. But now we're not doing that, but it gives us far more time to connect with our clients, through our account leaders, through everyone. And what we've learned also through that process, there is a really great opportunity not only to focus on the particular projects that we have with our clients, but to share knowledge. And I'll talk more about what we're doing in that area in a moment. In fact, I'll talk about it now. You're seeing on the slide here, these online webinars and panel discussions. Well, look, many people on this call enjoy going to conferences, listening, learning. Well, we're bringing the conferences to us now. So what we've done is we actually have captive audience conferences. We had a series of them on tunneling technology, and we will invite clients to attend and listen, okay? We're still working to see whether we can actually, you know, create PDHs, but there's so far more connectivity now than we've ever had before, and that's because, you know, quite frankly, the technology allows us to do so. Thank you. So, I mean, that's one way that we're helping our clients. Next slide, please. And go to the next slide, Pat, please. And so some ways that we're, you know, obviously remote working on projects, which are mainly, you know, design-related projects, that's working well. I shared with you many of the tools that we use, a lot of software, a lot of monitoring, a lot of communication with clients. But the projects, these projects that we design manifest themselves as construction projects. So what are we doing there? So we are working on projects and we're connected with clients, but we're doing things in a far more technological way. We have been doing it in the past, but I think even more so. Then the next slide might give you some samplings of what I mean. We're doing a project right now, a variety of projects dealing with lead service line replacement. You know, that's a national imperative now. So this is a project we're doing for Suez out of New Jersey. And we're out there as inspectors, but we've now developed mobile apps. And you could see the mobile app and the tablet that's right there with one of our inspectors. And everything gets uploaded to our service. And from there, it goes to the field office, it goes to the local manager, and also to the client. So we're connecting far more with our clients using technology, more so than we have before. Next slide. And by using technology, we're able to also help our clients with public participation and you know, this whole issue of the projects. All projects we do have positive social outcomes. How are we able to do that? So in a project in Denver, it's a Denver project with lead service replacement as well. You know, part of this is to engage the community, that there's a social value in what we're doing. We want to protect you. Yes, there's going to be disruption because we have to rip up the streets to replace it. So instead of having, you know, local community meetings in libraries or in schools, we can't do that today. We actually had one. We had a public outreach online Zoom broadcast with over 800 people. So we were able to educate and share our customer on those particular projects using technology. The lowest slide is a project that we're doing in South America, in Colombia. This is on a project that's a renewable energy project. But, you know, we just can't fly out there anymore and do what we're going to do. So we have people in Colombia. They communicate with our people in North America. And through, you know, mobile apps, we're able to actually have as many as 19 virtual meetings in 1 week, covering a wide array of topics, not only between the staff in North America and the staff in South America, but more importantly, our client. So if that's working well for us. Something new that we started, you know, in Mott MacDonald, we're not just an infrastructure company where we do a lot of design work, you know, which is, you know, our principal core service. We also have a line of business that deals with health and education, and principally, you know, in third world countries. And we have, you know, epidemiologists on staff. So, you know, we started to look at this whole issue of COVID-19 in our infrastructure space to see what can we do to help reduce exposure risk to COVID-19 or other diseases as the years unfold. So next slide, Pat. We have a program that was developed in-house years ago, but we're using it now, even, you know, assisting clients in addressing, you know, transient movement of people in tight spaces. And this is called STEP software. It stands for Simulation of Transit Evacuation of Pedestrian Movements. We've used this principally in transit stations, certainly in the UK and Asia Pacific and in the States. It helps us really, you know, effectively manage the design of transit facilities in order to have positive movement of staff. We took our STEPS program software, Pat, next slide, and been able to redeploy that to support and help clients dealing with this whole issue of how do we get back to some sense of normality, and how do we do this in a way that would be, you know, reduce at least the risks of movement and potential contamination. So the slide on the left is your typical business as usual in a rail station. And on the right is through reconfiguring this using our STEP software, we help our clients start to come up with a manner that would enable them to address this whole issue of staff in their facilities. We use this, we've talked to our clients at airports. Next slide. This one talks about rail stations. Similar at airports, many airports, we fly to airports all the time. Very hectic, business as usual, using common facilities. But how can we help our clients reduce that risk and minimize the spread, of potential, contamination, if you will, or disease? So using steps, I'll show you an example where on a project for Rutgers University, where they asked us to help them with their social distancing. So using steps, we can look at the current way of egress, okay? And we can look at their space, help them with their social distancing, and then how long it takes to get out. And then we looked at the green is that actual 6-foot diameter. And we looked at how they might be able, through their protocols, manage the closure of offices. We look at this in a more standard format, and we're starting to look at it during emergencies, fire emergencies. Obviously, fire emergencies, people, we still want to have it organized. So through our STEPS modeling, we've been able to deploy that model to support clients relative to social distancing. So just something that seems to be working for us. And we're doing this more as knowledge sharing with our clients and letting them know that if they need any help in that area, we'll do that. We talk about multi-agency coordination and communication. I got to tell you, we're a global company and it's working well. We're taking, I don't want to use the word advantage, but we're maximizing the opportunity to engage our clients, not only on our projects, but having them share their views and knowledge with our clients in other parts of the world. We recently had an event on the very issue, and this event was more to do with transit. And we had clients, North American clients, connected with our clients in the UK and other parts of the world, just helping with the public outreach and messaging and getting some sense of appreciation of what are you doing for Transport for London and how that may help Port Authority. So we're taking advantage of the fact that we have the technology to enable us to do that. We had one recently, a transit agency workshop. I know that we had Sound Transit, we had LA Metro on it, we had the Port Authority in New York, and we had even Transport for London. And it's interesting how you get, and we as consultants, wow, what a great way to learn so much what our clients want. So many of you that are colleagues of mine, partners in other businesses, give that a shot because it really works for us, and I'm sure it would work for you and all our clients and all our partners, many that are on this call. Next slide, please. So I kind of gave you an idea, an inkling of what it's been like over the last few months. It's been a challenge. It's been a struggle. But let me just spend a few minutes on this whole issue of getting back to normal. So in North America right now, we're still basically operating what I call the red zone. Right now, most of our offices, only, in fact, 7 offices are now open in what we call the amber phase. And the green, the new normal, I don't see that happening in a while. And it's something that we have to look at very carefully. So to me, I just share this with you because there's not a rush to go back. We have, every office has to do a local office plan. We have to review that plan very carefully. We have to be consistent with local rules and laws. We don't want to rush everybody back, and we're taking our time, and we want to do it the right way with safety and well-being at the forefront of what we're doing. The last thing we want to do is rush people back only to find out that we have a lot of COVID hits, and then we go back to totally in the red. So we're going to take it very carefully. Next slide, Pat. I put this slide on here just to give you an idea of where the McDonald business is and where we are in North America relative to the rest of the business. And I got to tell you, we've always communicated well, but I think we communicate even better. right now. And even when we talk about this red, amber, and green phase, what happens in North America is differently than what might be happening in Europe or in Australia, but we do connect and communicate, and we learn from each other. And if you look at it in North America, next slide, you'll see that we have 66 offices, and you can see where they're located. But each office has to have a unique plan, and each office will have. I mentioned earlier, we have an app that we use. Okay, it's a third-party app, and no one can go to an office once we're in the Amber's phase. These first 7 offices, 3 are in Canada, and a few in United States. More will open. We have an app. Everybody must go to a self-certification, a self-attestation. This app, it's a mobile app. You go before you go into the office, any 3 hours before you go into the office, up to 3 hours, you need to go to the app. You need to answer probably a dozen questions. And if the questions, and most of the questions are obviously health related. And if you don't get the green light, you don't go in the office. And then what happens is, whether it's a green or red light, it gets uploaded onto SharePoint sites to our office, to our HR people, so they know exactly what's going on in that area. We do that for a variety of reasons. Oh, by the way, on construction sites, no different. None of our staff can go on a construction site, okay, unless they deploy that app each and every day. And if they get the green light, they go on the site, obviously with the right social distancing and whatnot. That's our app. And if our client has an additional requirement, obviously we're going to listen to the client's requirement, but that requirement will not trump our requirement. Because if we're protecting our people, we're protecting our client, and we're protecting the general public. So to me, I think that is something that's working well for us. It's a third-party app. It's really fantastic, and it helps us. So in closing, when I look at where we are with this pandemic, and as I said, I think having the right technology, agile working, meeting online by default, communicating, to me, that's key. And that can't stop. Can't stop now, it can't stop tomorrow, and it can't stop next year. We've learned through this that by engaging even more so, more frequently, empathizing more, engaging more, we connect better with our staff, with our partners, and with our clients. So to me, I think that's key. We will continue to invest in technology. That's very important to us. As I said, clients, we're more engaged now than ever before, whether it's with captive audience webinars, online communications, social media. We're doing this in a more focused way, and we're doing it in a way that I hope and I believe will support a very safe environment. What's going to happen a year from now? I can tell you as an engineer, and this is just my own personal reflection before I call my presentation to an end and open up to questions. I strongly believe that on this journey, when we finally, hopefully, get through this, I don't think it'll ever go back to in my business where 85 to 90% ratio to office space. It's likely to go down to 60%. But make no mistake, working from remote seems to work well for us. But I do believe in the long term, it is not sustainable to think that we're going to have a remote business with 90% of our staff working remotely. I see us going from 90 to 85 to maybe 60. In some offices, maybe less than that. But to me, young engineers in particular need that contact. They need that nurturing. They need to have those mentors, those technical mentors there. We do it reasonably well remotely, but it's no substitute from where I stand on, and I would be happy to be challenged by anybody. It is not a substitute to that face-to-face communal connection that I think engenders that trust in each other. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for at least allowing me to share with you what we're doing in McDonald. So with that, I'll turn this over to you, Fenny.
Well, thank you, Nick. Great presentation. First, I'd like to thank Finioski and his team, Charles and Rick, for putting these sessions on. I think they're really valuable for the industry to help us move forward in dealing. Well, it was uncharted waters when we started. We're getting pretty good at it. Nick, I'm very much a people person. You like to engage with people. How are you coping with this whole situation personally? Because it's not your style to have to look through a camera to see somebody.
Well, I mean, to me, personally, yeah, I rather be there shaking hands, looking at my clients face to face, understanding what their needs are. Okay, so obviously I prefer that. Me personally, well, I mean, I got to confess, this is the first time I wore a tie in the last 3 or 4 months. And I moved my operations to my beach house. So life is good. But on a serious note, I think it's not just me, it's a mindset by the leadership of the business. We have to connect more than ever and understand there are some people just are not going to be able to come back to the office. Some might be single parents. You're going to have situations where schools may not open. And you've got engineers and scientists. We have to be very empathetic, do the right thing. We're on a journey. All I know is that I put a lot of stock and trust in our people, and we'll get through that. Me personally, I can work from any place I want to work and be effective, but not as effective as it was prior to this. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm as pumped up as I've ever been. I look at this as a new challenge in my career, and I'm going to make certain that ship stays afloat. So that's my answer to the question.
Thank you, Nick. And I also would like to thank Pat for participating today. And Nick, I think I really appreciate your candor on the presentation. You share all that you have been going through and your plans. I think it provides others an idea of what is happening and they can relate to what you are going through. And there is a question here respect to one of the comments that you made in terms of working with your clients, and it's coming from Alexandra Wagner. And she's asking if you've seen any differences between your private owners and your public owners and how they are reacting to the COVID-19 and your operations, and which one is shying away from work and how are they reacting to this?
Okay, so let me just answer that, before we get into public and private, so that people on the call knows. Our business mix right now, I would say our public clients constitute 75% of our work stream and 25% is private. And much of our private clients are, in the energy space. It's renewable energy, a lot of midstream pipeline companies, power companies of the sort, class 1 railroads, okay, and a lot of financial institutions where we do advisory work. On the public side, I got to tell you, the reaction has been fantastic. That's been really fantastic. They're concerned about revenues and that, revenue streams may not be where they are. We're helping them as I speak when the stimulus funding really comes to bear on helping them with grants and applications. We're basically working with them each and every day. We have some public clients that are demanding that we put so many people in the field, right? And I got to remind them, we're going to meet your needs, but we have to do it in a measured way because I don't care. Safety comes first, okay? 95% of the public clients are all for it. They want to work together. We have some public clients that keep calling us and asking us, and surprisingly, keep moving with the projects. I've seen that many of our clients in the public space seem to be more focused in the next year on asset management as opposed to major capital undertakings. Because major capital undertakings, that infusion of cash, may not manifest itself in the near term. So they need to learn how to sweat those assets. And our business in asset management has really picked up significantly with the public clients. Not to say that we're not working on major projects, but there seems to be a focus on asset management and help us manage our assets as best we can over the entire life cycle. So that's a good thing. Private clients, we've had some private clients that because of funding had to shut down their operations, okay? And in which case, you take it on the chin. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna say we're very fortunate that I can only count on one hand a few instances where that happened. The same interest though, help us get through this process. In the past, clients have an expectation that you're gonna do the job for them. And that's fine, and that's what they deserve. And we need to step up and exceed that expectation. But today, there seems to be a greater sense of partnership, a greater sense of let's go in it together. And I get very excited about that because I think that's a good thing.
Nick, this is a great follow-up because you're talking about clients. We had two of our attendees ask client-related questions. One is Yanis Ziligaskis and Hassan Asari. And their questions are around, have clients renegotiated prices down, declined to pay, forfeit deposits, or have other challenging issues? Their one was, what do the clients say about the quality of our work during this time frame? So it's client-focused.
Okay, so on the quality of the work, I've seen, in fact, a greater appreciation, because as I showed earlier on, I'm not plugging, Bluebeam, but we, in a very collaborative way now, actually bring the client as a stakeholder into the design process. They're more connected now than they have been in the past, because we can have as many meetings as we want remotely with our clients. We can have them share what's going on, not only the design engineers, but if it's a wastewater treatment facility, the operators can now come on and work. And most of our jobs are in a BIM model type of an environment. So to me, I could tell you, it's a good question. And we're saying we were working remotely, and you won't know ultimately whether the manifestation of success will be realized until you start, putting these structures up. But I'm very confident, based on the impact, the input I get from clients, and how our people are working together collaboratively and bringing even more experts into the process, more so than ever. I think we're in a good shape there. As far as clients that might be hurting for money, there are a few clients that said that, things are a problem. Can you, quote, voluntarily, can you take a 10% cut in your rates because, we don't want to stop the job, but we need your help. You got to understand, with clients, it's all about relationships. So I got to tell you, I might have one or two of those instances. We'll talk to the client, and if it's a long-term client that's always been there for us, well, we're going to step up and do what's necessary to help them along. But it's been very few. It's been very few, but we've had some. And, quite frankly, we have not yet to this day walked away from a client. I am not going to walk away from a client that's been there for us for the last 30, 40 years since I've been in this business. Just not going to do that. But I will have quality conversations with them to see what we can do. Maybe it will be to forego some of the payments until a few months down the road. Fine, I take it on the chin in terms of working capital. but if that's going to help the client, we'll do that. So I can only say that we look at that on the merits of each and every case. If it's a client that we never worked for before, and they say, you know, we want you to do, we don't want you to make any profit. Well, you know what? If I never worked for this client before, maybe it's not the right client for me. I don't look at clients as a client. I look at it as a client as a partner. And we're there in partnership with our clients. I hope that answers the question.
Great response.
Thank you, Nick. I think the emphasis that you have put during the conversation about partnership with your clients, but also with your employees. And I think in your presentation, you show very clearly how you support them and how you are thinking ahead of some of the things that are happening. One of the questions that we get from Migara Hewasitarana, that she says, like, one of the points that you made was that it's difficult to onboard new employees. What are you thinking? Are you creating new online curriculum for onboarding? Are you creating new mentorship programs? And what are you doing to help create that community that you spoke of?
That is an absolutely great question, and one that, you know, we are working on. We struggle a bit with it. Obviously, we're hiring people, and when you hire somebody who's got 20 to 30 years experience, it's easy to acclimate them into a remote business. On young engineers, we assign I don't call it a buddy system, somebody that will be with that person day in and day out and help them assimilate into a remote working environment. I think as the offices open, I would like to have the young engineers work in the offices, okay? There might be some instances where they can't. I'm fine with that, because I think that's where they get that extra level of nurturing. I come as a design engineer back in 1973, and to this day, a lot of what I learned was by having these engineers that have been doing this for years, showing us how to do this. We come out of school with a good sense of the laws of physics and the command of the sciences. We learn how to design a beam or a column, or how to go ahead and size the horsepower of a pump. But to put it all together as a building or an airport or a comprehensive state-of-the-art water treatment plant, very hard to do that remotely. So it's a great question. HR's got the onboarding going fine, but to me, it's more that technical nurturing, that technical mentoring that we are putting in place. And I think that, it's a journey. I can't honestly say we have this thing licked, but to me, it's first and foremost on my mind as much as the safety of our staff. I can't hear you.
You are on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
Thank you. Question came in from Edward Strom wanting to know regarding construction management and a reduction of staff at the site. Have clients reacted to it and had some concerns about not having enough staff on the property?
Well, I mean,
to handle a job.
Yeah, well, it depends on the job. Many clients it depends on the size of the job. We're in the middle of a big design build project, okay? And they're in a very integrated project delivery mode. You've got a client that wants this job done. We're working for a contractor, and if you've done any design build work, you realize that's a 24/7 lifestyle, and they demand the people on the job. And, it's very hard to tell them no. So we've been fortunate enough to be able to demand that, but they also need to understand that we have to do it in a manner that's safe and reasonable. And to me, I think on many of our construction projects, we haven't had that much of a problem. But what we are insisting on is that everybody gets tested daily. I'm not treating a field person any different than I'm dealing with an office engineer. And if they can't come up with the green light, they're not going to that site. And we tell that to our clients, because we don't want to cause a bigger problem where the job gets shut down because you test positive and all of a sudden half the staff, not my staff, the contractor staff or the client staff needs to go ahead and spend 14 days at home. It's a moving target. I think most of our clients have been very positive, very sympathetic towards that. Some are very demanding. Yes, I need your people on the job. Well, we jump and we meet their needs. And if we can't, we talk to them about how we can accomplish this in a manner that's safe, And at the end of the day, it's got to be safe.
Thank you. Nick, we are having a question from one of our colleagues at the National Academy of Construction, Lillian Baron. She really want to thank you for such an excellent presentation. And she's focusing on the conversation at a larger scale in Washington. In Washington, the focus is on funding airports and not transit or highway infrastructure for next year's stimulus funds. What is your thinking in terms of what may happen next year in terms of public agency fundings and projects? And do you see delays likely on this process?
Well, first of all, when you mentioned Lillian Baron's name, it put a big smile on my face, because I am I guess a member of the Lillian Baron fan club. And another good friend of mine,
we all.
Yeah, right. And another good friend of mine, Dominic Savidio. So having said that, listen, we're looking at that carefully. And my view is, yeah, I read about what the FAA is doing and what's happening, and I'm very active with ACEC, Lillian, as you are. And we're monitoring it. I think, personally, I think that next year, 2021, as opposed to 2020, I think it's going to be a flat year. I think for our industry. Does that mean we're going to be complacent? Of course not. We're going to work hard to do it. But I said earlier that I do think, that stimulus funding needs to come through. But you know the way that works is federal money gets down to the states. By the time the states relegated, and as you well know, there's a lot of social programs that need to be, rightly so. We have to put people back to work. All right, we have to do this in the most just, environmentally and racial justice way. And then whatever money's left, look, the economy gets driven by infrastructure. There's no doubt about that. And we market this as well as anybody else. But my view right now is there's a gestation period. And whether it's FAA money or money coming from the respective DOTs or FHA, there's a gestation period. And like we had in the past in 2007-8, we had these, ready projects. What we did is we did a lot of paving. We didn't really build much. It took a few years to build. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, unfortunately. Hope I'm wrong. But we are targeting it, Lillian, as I know many of our other partnering firms are doing. But I see a bigger focus, quite frankly, on asset management, whether it's a transit facility, aviation, or whatever the case may be. But projects will continue. They will continue. I just think all of us need to lobby hard to try to get stimulus money focused directly into infrastructure.
Thank you. And thank you, Nick. And thank you, Pat, for being a co-moderator and helping bring these ideas and actions that you are taking at Mark McDonald. It really has been illuminating. I also would like to thank the collaborating organizations, ACEC New York, AIA New York, ASCE, CMA New York, New Jersey, CSU, ENR, and NAC. I would also like to thank past speakers and co-moderators who have joined us today. Dick Anderson, President Emeritus of the New York Building Congress, Eric McFarland, Deputy Commissioner for Infrastructure at the New York City Department of Design and Construction, Tom Smith, Executive Director of ASCE, Jerry Buckwalter, Chief Operating and Strategy Officer at ACE, Lucio Sobelman, Chair of the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department at the University of Southern California. Linda Tong, Chief Architect of New York City Transit. And of course, our only one, Lillian Baron, who spent a lot of years in Port Authority, New York, New Jersey. And I know that her work at that time prepared the agency for this future that we are seeing today. I would like also to thank especially to all of you out there in offices, agencies, and at home throughout New York City and around the world for taking some time to listen into our lecture today. Continuing education credits for architects are being requested, and if you want a credit, please send us an email to cbips@columbia.edu. I would also like to thank the team at Columbia Center for Buildings, Infrastructure, and Public Space, Michael Smith, Charles Chen, and Rick Bell. Without them, this program will not be possible. We also are preparing for our next Tuesday lecture, August 4th, the 13th lecture in the series. We will be given by Victor Ali, responsible for the infrastructure program of the city of Sao Paulo. My co-moderator, it will be Luis Carlos Pinto da Silva Filho, Dean of Engineering at the Universidad Federal do Rio Grande do Sul. And the speaker on Tuesday, August 11th, the 14th lecture in the series, will be given by Gia Biaggi, Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Transportation. My co-moderator will be Dr. Nora Elgari, Vice Chair of the American Society of Civil Engineers Construction Research Council and Associate Professor at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Our Tuesday, August 18th, our 15th lecture in the series will be given by Dr. Penchua Chao, Chief Engineer, China Construction Third Engineering Bureau Group, the team that built the hospital in Wuhan in a week. And my co-moderator will be Dr. Fang Dongping, Dean of the School of Civil Engineering, Tsinghua University in Beijing. On August 25th, the 16th lecture in the series will be given by Dr. Bok Nan Lee, Professor at Seoul National University, and my co-moderator will be Dr. Monsu Park, Professor at Seoul National University. On our website, cbips.engineering.columbia.edu, you can find information about our past lectures, including the PowerPoint presentations and video recordings of the talk. You can also find information about upcoming lectures in the program. Recently added to the website are thoughts about the reopening of workspaces, in addition to ideas about the reopening of restaurants and bar spaces. A case study shows how this is happening at the Black Rabbit in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Thank you, Anne and Ken Lanier, and architectural designer Maria Morsen. Thank you all again for joining us today, and stay well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.